Alright, so I'm going to give you another practical example of everything you've learned so far and use it in creating a chair. So once more, to start, before I do any type of modeling project, it's important to do some research first to understand what it is you're trying to create. In the case of a chair, I can come and find reference images, but it's even better if you have a chair at home that you can actually look at, move, turn over, see how it's constructed, and start learning about basic construction principles, because that's going to help you through this type of modeling process. So I'm actually going to select this one right here. And we will start by doing an egg chair. So I'm going to go through the process of modeling this to give you an idea of how the tools can be used. Now, this is not the only way to approach modeling this type of a chair. In fact, in 3D production, there's rarely ever like one right way. There are a lot of different approaches that have things that are beneficial or less beneficial for them based on the usage. And so you need to learn different types of creative problem-solving skills using the same types of tool sets. So with this in mind, I'm going to move it off to the side on my second monitor so I can see it while I'm modeling. But I'm going to start with the orange part, the egg shape of the chair. And I'm actually going to do it by just beginning with a simple cube. It's important when you're modeling to not overcomplicate things. People beginning tend to start by adding too much information too quickly. What that will do is that will end up creating a lot of different issues for you down the road. It's important to start at a low resolution, so fewer polygon faces, and then build up from there. So I'm going to keep it simple, but just try and develop the base form for what this is going to look like. So for example, I'll bring this out for those wing sections. This comes in a little bit for the inside of this chair here. I'm going to actually rotate this up a little bit. Going to do an extrusion. Bring that down forward just a little bit. Rotate that some more because it needs to be able to work together. And actually, before I do that, I am going to expand this a little bit. I'm going to keep this high. I'm not going to do the base of that chair yet. So I'm going to expand this out here for where it forms the armrests. Do another extrusion forward. And this one's actually going to raise up a little bit, not taking it too far forward because then that would be problematic. Actually going to end it right there for the front of the chair. Now what I can do is come in and use the multi-cut tool, and I will make sure under the modeling toolkit that I turn on snap step. I'm going to put this at 20, well, no, I'm going to do this at 50% first so I can get that edge loop right through the center, once again by holding down Control and Shift and left clicking. And then I'm going to create two more. I'm going to do these at, well, we'll do it every 10%. So I can figure out that I want this about right here. About right there. And I've got those sections built up. So let me shape it with just this information for now. Go into wireframe mode. See if I can get a better marquee selection. I'll get everything but those two, grab these, and then I'll drop this down to start creating that shape. I'll actually unselect these right now and push these down to create that inside scoop on the chair. I'm going to need to make some other adjustments, and I'll point out a couple of other tools as I do so. Okay, so that's feeling okay for me. I want to move this up, but I actually want to do it on both sides and keep it symmetrical. So the way I can do that is to turn symmetry right here and change that to world X. And so if you look down here at the bottom left, once again, that's your X, Y, Z. If I turn it to world X, it will do the symmetry settings across the X-axis. So right now it's facing out to the right, which is this way, and I want to flip it on that x-axis to the other side. So with these two selected, you see the other two on the other side are selected as well. So in this way, I'm able to work symmetrically to more quickly model the object that I'm working on. So I've got this shaping, and I'm mostly happy with that. I already know at the top that this needs to come down just a little bit. This top angle right here is a little too harsh, so I'll add in another edge loop in a second. But you can see how I'm starting to develop these shapes and forms very quickly. Move this out, up just a little bit. Rotate that out a little bit. And I want to bring this up. Whoops. To create this front lip on the chair. And then I'll add another edge loop to be able to create the scooping shape underneath. So once again, grabbing the multi-cut tool, holding down Control, and then I can hold Shift if I want it to snap. I'm going to add in a few more edge loops. Right there. I'm going to add one more in across here. And I'm going to add in one here and one here. So you see, I've got the base shape first, and then I start building up this additional information. So with this figured out right now, I'm then going to take these bottom faces, or these bottom vertices, and I'm going to lower them down so I can start creating that egg shape. Oh, let me grab just one and then Shift select that. I'm also going to need to add in just a little bit more geometry here, but let me get this to a good point first. So for example, on the inside back here, I actually want to lift this up so I can create that rounding. Scoop this down just a little bit, and this one down just slightly further. And you can see I'm getting some of the shaping that I want. Expanding this out as well so I get that rounded form. And so I can start building this. Already there's some visual issues though, so even though this is right, because of that hard edge right there, it actually doesn't look like it fits. So for right now, I will double left click that edge so that it selects that whole edge loop. And I'll do Mesh Display, Soften Edge. Also right here, I don't want that to be hard edged. So Mesh Display, Soften Edge. So I'm leaving these other edges hard because I do want that shaping around the outside, but I may soften it and do just a single seam to be able to help create that hard edge shape. In fact, I will do that right now. So let me grab these edges, and I'm just shift selecting and double left clicking. And I will keep the seam running along that outer edge. At the corners, I will also soften it because I don't want those to be hard. And so I'll go Mesh Display, Soften Edge. And now you can see it gets that soft rounding, and then it gets the hard edge there where that seam would run along. And I can do things like bringing this in just a little bit to help kind of soften that rounded form there. Use this information to create that little bit of a bevel on there. And use this opportunity to move some of these sections forward just a little bit within the shaping so that we get that slightly more rounded form. I can do the same thing here to try and give that a little bit better shaping. Once again, I've got that symmetry on so that it gets a little bit nicer rounding. And these need to go out just a touch more. Alright, so with that, I've gotten quite a bit of work done. So before I go any further, I want to stop and take a moment to go to Object Mode, select it, Edit, Delete All by Type History, Modify, Freeze Transforms, File, Save Scene As, whoop, not do that, File, Save Scene As, and I will call this chair 1 underscore 1 as I'm going through the iterations, and I'll save that. Okay, so now that I've gotten that far, I then want to move up to the top of the chair, because you don't want to work just on one section the whole time. You need to see this working together. I'm already seeing that this is far too tight, so once more I'll pull this image over right here. And you can see that it comes in a little bit, but these actually stick out further than the arms, and this only comes in slightly from the arms. So I need to adjust this a little bit. Bring this out a little bit more. And this section as well, bring that further out. And then compensate with this one as well. And actually these do drop down before it comes up again, so I can have those a little bit further in. Alright, so that's coming in slightly. If I need to, I can actually push that further, which I will right now, just a touch. And then up higher, I'm actually going to start creating this shaping, which brings it out, well, making sure I'm not selecting too much, bring it out much further past the form so I can get those wing shapes on it that are needing to be formed. And this one I will adjust so that it's not sticking out quite so far, because that's creating a little bit of a problem with the swoop shape that I'm shooting for. And bring that back forward a little bit so it's a little bit more clean and a little bit closer to what I'm looking for here. In fact, with all of these, I will bring them in just a little bit and then move back up to the top where I'm going to get that straightened out. Okay, so up at the top, once more, I can grab these, and I can see that that seat backing is far too far out, and so I can start by bringing this in, thinning out the back of the seat a little bit. I can also move these back in space to create the shape I want, because it shouldn't be just flat like that. It does need to be actually moved back in space to create the form that I'm looking for. And this one can be moved back just a touch. Same thing with these, bring that back a little bit, and in that way I can create more of that rounded form on the interior. And then on the back, I will do the same thing. I need to bring this back just a little bit. Bring that back just a little bit. That one as well, and then I'm going to grab these and widen them a little bit more. I'll just move them because it's in symmetry. I could also just select both sides and scale them out, but since I'm already in symmetry mode, I'll just move them. And you can see that starts getting me a lot more information. Now, I had planned on adding another edge loop through here, and I think I will just very quickly, but honestly with this gets me the base form that I'm looking for, and will actually get me most of the way there. The final things I might change are to actually rotate this in a little bit, and then move it out so it gets more of that cupping shape as it forms around the person sitting in the chair. But let me add in another edge loop. And by the way, because I'm in symmetry mode, as I put this edge loop in, you see that it is symmetrical across that other side. And so that gets a better feel for it as well. And so now I can take these. Right now it's just flat, and so it's not utilizing the information. But I can take this, go into wireframe, make sure I've got it correct, and simply by moving this a little bit, and I would want to double check, make sure it's still building everything the way I want it to, I can actually get a lot of effect out of it. Oh, move that forward just a touch more. Alright, on this spot right here, everything's tending to flatten out as well, so I'm going to actually push that back just a touch further. Not necessarily the back, although it does need some. So this is where you just have to look and try and figure things out in some cases and get a feel for it and the shaping. So I'm going to bring that out, bring these in here, but grab that center one, push it really far back, and then help kind of just shape these a little bit more so I can get that nice feel. I'm also going to lower that down just a little bit more, and the same with these to kind of round out that form. I want that to come out just a little bit more. Alright. With this point here on the edges, as I'm looking at it, once again I'm going to shift a little bit, create a little bit more of that cup. And a lot of this is just getting good with looking at things and visually finding out what's working and what's not. Now that I've got this here, I actually do want to push this back a little bit further as well. Grab these, push them back. Double check across here, see that that's working. Check the outside, where I want to bring this out a little bit, but not much. All right. And this one I actually want to bring up just a little bit more because it's not getting the shaping I want, and then I want to lower this back portion down a little bit more. So I want to create more of that seating shape here, and then bring this in so it gets the proper curvature to it. And so you see very quickly, using these tools, I've been able to create these forms. So using extrude, using the multi-cut tool, I now have this base form for the chair. So once again, I will select it, edit, delete all by type history, modify, freeze transforms. I'm going to check the outliner really fast, make sure that there's just one thing. I'm also going to go up to mesh, cleanup, select matching polygons, faces with more than 4 sides, hit apply to make sure that I don't accidentally have any n-gons. Based on how I constructed this, there shouldn't be, but I just want to check anyway. Okay, so I will file, save scene as, and this will now have the second iteration of it, so save that. I'm then going to build the interior portion of the chair, so I'm going to grab another cube. If you notice in this chair that there's a cushion right here. Now I could just grab the faces and extrude up, but it makes more sense for me right now just to create that cushion out of a separate piece and put it on. In the same way, it's going to make sense for me to create this base out of a separate piece. So I'm going to come here, shrink this down, get it kind of into position, and then once again I can use this multi-cut tool. And by the way, because I was in symmetry mode by putting it in the center, they lined on top of each other and couldn't complete the entire edge loop, so I need to turn symmetry off to get that 50%, so it's right in the center, and then I can turn the symmetry back on, so world X. And I will do one more set of loops here, and because it's world X not world Y, it's not working that way, so I can actually, or excuse me, world Z, it's not in that direction, so I can actually change it to world Z. But you notice that there's a problem. I'm already in one axis, so it's based on the symmetry of being over the origin, so it's not working. So if I really want to get this to work, I can go to Object Z. And now when I do it, it's basing it on the size of the object and how I'm constructing all this and putting it together. Oh. And it had an issue, so I'll Control Z to step back. And sometimes this happens. If you find this problem, what you can do is start, if you need to, by putting something in the center. Then I can go to World Z, or excuse me, to Object Z. Add in those extra edge loops. And then if I don't want that central edge still, then I can remove that, but also remembering to remove these vertices that are here. So I'm going to use this to help me get the shaping I want. Once again, this is very low resolution already, so I don't need to do a lot. I just need to use this to kind of help create some of the shapes and forms that I'm looking for. So let me turn the symmetry back on to World X as I'm working on this. Bring that in just a little bit. I'm going to make that slightly smaller, and I'll be doing this with a few of them. So this gives me that appearance of having that cushion where it's a little bit smaller here on the edges. Let me grab both of those and scale it in. And then puffing up for that seat in the center. So I'll do the same on the back. So bring this in actually a little bit here to get that slight rounding. Scaling that in. I can do the same for these. Scale those down just a little bit. Do that for the end piece right there. I can then grab these vertices. Go back to shaded mode so I can see where to line it up to. I'm creating that cushion shape. And that gets me most of the way where I want to be. I may actually reduce all of that and scale it in just a little bit more. And then move that whole thing down. On the outsides, I'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to grab all those, uniformly scale them down just a little bit more. And I will bring that up. With this, I'll actually have this go back in space just a little bit so that it's a little bit more form-fitting. These ones as well. And it looks like I probably will want another edge loop through there, so I could have left that center one, but for now I'm not going to worry about it too much or stress. You know, it is what it is at the moment. And that's the beautiful thing. You can always come back and make changes if you need to. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. All right, so I'm going to turn off symmetry once again. Use the multi-cut tool and cut in here in the form. Using this... once again, turning that back on to World X. I'm going to expand that out just a little bit. And then I'll actually expand some of these sections out. So just grabbing that side just a little bit. And those, making sure I actually got both of them just a little bit to round out that form. These I will also bring out just a touch to make sure that that is rounded and even. I will then grab these and I'm going to increase their scale just a little bit so that there's a little bit more puff just around the edges of that. And a touch more just right here on the front. Alright, looking at hard and soft edges, I'm going to grab this top edge loop. And I have to do it a few times so I can get around, because every time it comes to this type of a corner it stops. But I'll grab that and do modify, or excuse me, mesh display, soften edge. And so there I've got that cushion cover. Once more, grab both of those, edit, delete all by type history, modify, freeze transforms, file, save scene. Or yeah, save scene as. Chair 3, I'm going to save that. I'm going to stop this video and then I'll come back in the next video to finish off the base and go through the cleanup.